Good morning to all of you. How are you? I'm here. I know. I'm surprised too. Do you want to know the last 2 days that project that I was working on took me over 12 hours. Over 12 hours. I was working on it all day on Monday and then until late, and then all day on Tuesday until late, last night until late. But I'm going to talk about the project that I was working on in our DIY Psychologist. All right. So come around and see that. And yeah, we've been talking about a lot of things. Even though I missed yesterday, we've been here talking about a lot of things. And so keep yourself posted. Keep yourself posted. All right. Let's get started. We have got a lot to do, but we have a big word. A big word today. Did you see that? Did you see that? We're like, what? Etta what? E-T-Y? What is, how do you even say that? Is that Etsy? Did you forget the S in there? Etymology. Etsyology? What is that? Is that knowing how to shop for homophones? What? What is this? No, we are learning about, as we have been, learning about word meanings. Word meanings is what we're talking about. Where did that word come from? And it's something that I've always loved, but never really, I don't really know very well, right? Because I'm not an English teacher. I'm not a linguist. How about that? I'm not a linguist. I don't study language. I'm not a language expert, but I've always been very interested in knowing where certain words come from. And I've told you this before, but I'm going to tell you this again, just because I think it's so interesting. And I really wish somebody would comment on it or research it, do a deep dive on it. That's what I wish. And that is the word conscience, my conscience, right? Not that I'm conscious, but my conscience. And that word is C-O-N plus science, S-C-I-E-N-C-E. So C-O-N plus the word science is conscience. And so I thought when I heard that C-O-N, con, means with in Espanol, in Spanish. Con means with. So conscience, I always wondered, does it mean with science? Your conscience is with science because it makes so much sense to me. That makes so much sense to me, right? If I want to have a clean conscience, what's a conscience? You know what? Yep, we're going to talk about that coming up for sure. What's a conscience? I'm writing it down right now so I don't forget. I'm spelling it wrong right now. I'm writing it down and spelling it wrong right now. Ah! Cone science. I just spelled it for you. Hello. Yes. So what is your conscience? What's your conscience? That's your little voice inside of you that I'm just thinking about all these words that we're learning. I'm thinking about all these words we're learning. That is that little voice inside of you that we say, right now we're trying to hush it. A lot of times we find all kinds of ways to hush that little voice inside of us when especially we do something wrong. And let me give you an example, okay? We call it now, drum roll please. We call it now, what? Shaming. We call it shaming is what we do. That little voice inside of ourselves when we feel ashamed of ourselves. Now, when we use the expression shaming, that's somebody else, right? Usually that's somebody else doing it to us when we use that, right? When we say they're shaming me. I heard somebody tell me that a little girl said that somebody was shaming her because he said she was too big to go down the slide. So a little boy said this girl was too big to go down the slide. And I was like, she got that right. She got shaming right. That's for sure. This little 5-year-old knows what shaming is, or however old she is. She knew what shaming is. That little voice inside of yourself that makes you feel bad, right? That little voice inside of ourselves that makes us feel bad, we sometimes do to ourselves, don't we? We sometimes shame ourselves, don't we? We do. And so, what do? We tell other people they can't shame us. Sure they can. I mean, they do. And we shame ourselves. So stop it. With science. Conscience is with science. What's science? Well, science is your senses. Science is built on your senses, right? So, eyes, smell, right? Sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. Your 5 senses. We've talked about this one time before. We'll bring it up more. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about it. So those are our 5 senses. So with our senses, we figure out what is right and wrong. Isn't that what our conscience does? Isn't that what our conscience does? It helps us figure out right from wrong, right? See, if you didn't know, parents, what we do in class, this is what we do in class. This is what teachers do in class. Do we talk about other things? We sure do. We sure do. But we don't try and talk about things that are gonna, that are just too much for your kids. Well, sometimes I do, but this is an alternative classroom. Isn't that what I called my university a while ago? Alternative university? That's what I called it. Yeah, just so that it doesn't get confused with somebody like Trump who's starting another Trump university. Just saying, I don't want to be confused. That's all I'm saying. Nobody's being nasty here. Just saying I don't want to be confused with, something that you should not. Hold on, I'm waiting for the signal. There we go. Feeling ashamed is something that you shouldn't erase from who you are. Feeling ashamed is something that you should not erase from who you are. Why? Because that's our signal inside telling us right from wrong. Sometimes people point the finger at us and they make us feel ashamed for something that we did, right? They're telling us that they don't think what we did was right. Shaming. Sometimes other people point the finger at us, like I am Joe Shively. Sometimes other people point the finger at us and they are telling us that they think we did something wrong. Does that person have a right? Well, I don't know. Maybe if you smashed into them on purpose, yeah, they have a right to tell you, you did something wrong. You should be ashamed of yourself. That's what they're talking about. You should shame yourself. What? You should shame yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. I got to write that down along with shame. The word, yeah. Is that good? Is that good that we should be ashamed of ourselves? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. Absolutely. Because that's, I'm going to use a very big word. How we regulate. 3 stops in there. How we regulate. How we decide to do more, or it's wrong. We should be ashamed of ourselves and back off. Regulate. Do more, do less. Do more, do less. That's regulating. And by the way, we don't need to have somebody else turn us into a robot to regulate ourselves if we know how to shame ourselves. If we know how to get that conscience working. Get that conscience with science, with your senses working. Do you see how important etymology is? So let's go and look at what we've been talking about, some definitions. All right, so we're going to get back to our chalkboard here. I don't have my glasses. I'm going to need them. All right, so here we talked about on day 91. In fact, I didn't change any of my numbers there. On day 91, we talked about contractions. On day 91, we also began talking about homophones, which are words that sound alike but are spelled different. So we went through all of those homophones and we talked about differences between, for example, to and to, T-O, T-O-O, and T-W-O, right? Which we've talked about in another class. But we didn't know those were called homophones. And there were 3 of those homophones, 2, 2, and 2. And we also have another 3 over there with there, and there, right? There, it is their sweater, not mine, T-H-E-I-R. It's over there, which has the word here in it, T-H-E-R-E. So that's how we know when we're talking about a place, here or there, it has the word here in it, H-E-R-E. But that's a homophone too, isn't it? That's a homophone with here, H-E-A-R. Do you see how confusing it gets, right? Don't forget that I said that I have those sight words, right? So we put those in those sight words, another page in those sight words. We don't need that. You know, I don't understand. I've got them here. Sight words. And then it doesn't show up is the issue there. So why are you looking at a black screen and only hearing my voice? Well, silly me put this over, at a place where you couldn't see me. I was in a different screen. You couldn't see me. But here are sight words. And here are some of the most difficult homophones that we need to spell. Remember, HOMO means similar or alike. The same or alike. Okay? The same or alike. HOMO. Phones. Phones has to do with audio, hearing. I can hear or a sound. Sounds alike. Words that sound alike. Homophones. And here are some of the more difficult words. It's like I can't get the finger to work in the right direction. I put here on our sight words list. So if you're still looking for the entire list of sight words, remember what we are really trying to do in this class is we're really trying to learn to read is what we're really doing in this class. If you already know how to read, you're going to learn about a lot of things, like etymology, for example. So you may know how to learn to read, but you're still going to learn a lot of things here. But for those people, especially adults that can't read because we have really denied our educational system any kind of dollars, right? I mean, we don't pay our teachers and then we get rid of them. Stay tuned for DIY Psychologist while I talk to you about filing an equal opportunity. No, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. EEOC claim, which I've already done. We're getting there. Oh, look out, Wadsworth. Look out, Wadsworth. Oh my goodness gracious. All these thoughts come into my head, as you know. Let's keep going, though. All right. Not that way. This way. All right, so now we talked about synonyms, which are words that have the same or similar meanings, and antonyms, words that have the opposite meaning. And whenever you go into a dictionary, or most of you go online to look up your words, or even if you're in Word, right? You can grab your thesaurus online in your Word document, right? You can grab your thesaurus, and your thesaurus will give you synonyms, word that means the same or something similar. And it will also give you examples of antonyms, words that are the opposite. Let me show you that. Let's see here. I should have a Word document up here. Yeah, not the one I wanted. Sorry. I don't know what I'm thinking here. I do know what I'm thinking. Okay. So let me just show you this. Um, I'm spending probably way too much time on something like this, but I have it anyway. So when you're in Microsoft Word, for example, here is my position. This is my rebuttal, right? So when you're in Microsoft Word, for example, and then you click on a word here, you can go up to your tools and you can pick thesaurus, right? And when you pick the thesaurus, you end up coming up with synonyms, words that are similar or mean the same, right? But at the very bottom there, what you end up having is an antonym. So even if you saw a word like entity, and let's say I wanted to know the opposite of it, you can go right to the antonyms, double click on it, and now all of a sudden you have a synonyms, a list of synonyms for the last antonym that you had, right? Okay, so that is one way that you can go about trying to find synonyms or antonyms. Another way that you can go about it is by looking for them online if you haven't done this before, all right? I mean, even if you have done it before, you can still do it again. Just letting you know. It's not off limits from you just because you've done it before. Okay, I don't have my glasses on. Well, that's okay. I got it. All right, that is not what I wanted to show you, but I'll get it here in just a minute. Oops. Okay, so let's say that we look up a word like homophones, okay? And so oftentimes what I get when I do a search is I get a dictionary, right? So there's the dictionary definition of homophone. And in fact, we not only get a dictionary definition online, but what is so cool, because we never had this back in the day, is they're going to tell me how to pronounce that word, which a lot of times, if it's a word I don't know and it's a big word, I might need to know how to pronounce it.
Homophone. Homophone.
So that is a wonderful little thing that we get when we look up words online. They're going to give me more examples here, but, and there probably isn't a definition. There probably aren't a lot of, thesauruses or whatever. But let's say we're going to use a different word like flowery. Again, I get the definition there, but now what I also do, and some other companies in there, but I get this Merriam-Webster. Now, Merriam-Webster, I don't happen to like so much, and the reason why I don't like it so much is because I get 6,000 ads on that, and I cannot stand it. But a lot of times what I end up getting, especially if I don't have a whole list of companies that are trying to get at the top there, is this thesaurus.com. So synonyms and antonyms for the word. And look at this.
Flowery.
Although that sounded horrible.
Flowery.
Geez, Louise, can't we get that sounding a little bit better? From thesaurus.com. So here we have synonyms. Where are the antonyms? There. Here we go. All right. Honestly, I've never had to go this far to get to the stinking antonyms. Usually, thesaurus.com has got the antonyms right there for you as well on the very first page. I see no antonyms here. Ugh. Hate when that happens. I say, oh, this is going to happen, and then it doesn't happen. But that's okay. We have an idea. Not only do we have a good idea of what synonyms are and antonyms are, we know how to find them as well, right? So that's good. And even have them pronounced for us as well, okay? All right, so we can find them in Word, which makes it easy as we're typing our documents in our classrooms or whatever. But we can also look them up online. You know, you could also look a word up. Let me show you something here. Let me get maybe a different page up here. Let's see what I have. Okay. So here I am in the Detroit Free Press. I was putting this together for my rebuttal. So let's say that I don't know what a word is right away. I don't know what, so I'm reading this article and let's say I don't know what a word is. And so I go and I highlight that word. And if you click on that word, where is it? There we go. And do a, whatever, left click, right click, whatever it is, which is a control click on my map, you can look up the word. So you can do this right online. Look up the word and it'll bring you to the definition of a word, or look up thesaurus. And here you can see what they do is they give you like all kinds of Apple definitions of it. But it doesn't really matter, does it? Because I am able to click right in that article. Did you see that? I just want to make sure that you actually did see that. I think that you did. Oh, no, you didn't. You can't see it. It does come up though. So when you right click on a word or you hit the control button on that word, your computer will give you options to look that word up in the dictionary or find similar words in the thesaurus. So that is a really great way to help us learn and understand words better. Let me show you some other things that we have here. Now, the idea of thinking about this actually here is, I should show you. Whoops, that's not where I want to show you. Is synonyms and antonyms. So this is a lesson on synonyms and antonyms. And this I got from Teachers Pay Teachers, just like I usually do, right? And so there's some practice and learning words. These really help us expand our vocabulary. So as I said, our first goal is to learn how to read, right? But in the process, just like with our sight words, we learn more and more words. We expand our vocabulary. We expand our lexicon. Our lexicon. What? What? Oh, there she is with her, etymology. Now she's lexiconing us. Vocabulary. What's your lexicon? Your lexicon is your internal dictionary. It could be, it's a list of words. It's like a dictionary, but it's a little bit different, right? It's not a book. I don't actually have a book. So if a lexicon isn't a book, how can it exactly be a dictionary? It can't be. That's why we have a different word. A lexicon's all the words you know, or all the words within. Maybe all the words within a book. That's a lexicon, right? That's a lexicon. So what happens when we see the word lexicon? We know vocabulary, and that's a big word. How many stops? Vocab. You-lar-re. 5 stops. What does that 5 stops mean? 5 stops means 5 syllables, doesn't it? 5 syllables. Okay, so let me actually get behind there what I need, which is this is what I need. There we go. I need to see a few things. As I'm producing, I need to see a few things. Keeps doing that. Ugh. I didn't know it was raining outside. There we go. Okay, so again, here in this classroom, the objective is right now learning to read. But in the process, why would you be here if you knew how to read? In the process, we're going to learn how to expand our vocabulary, how to write and speak in ways that communicate our ideas better so that we're not, hitting each other over the head with bats or whatever. Oh, I was going to say I can't find my other one, but I do have it. I have it right in its place right there. I'm so happy. And I have another one ready to go. But I'm like, how many of those do you need? Well, I could slide them right across anything. What I mean by that is they can be held anywhere. Look at, I can fill up this whole, where I hold my chalk, right? This whole planter. I can fill up that whole room with these, can't I? How many do you need? I don't know. But they're free. Watch them stop putting those on there now. Just because I found a great reuse for them. Right? Recycle, reuse, and what's the other one? What? Revamp. That's not it. I don't know. I figure out the time. There's calculations in my head. Okay. So, oftentimes the strategy that is used by people who can't read is these strategies here, which is using context clues, using word clues, and eliminating words you don't know. Now, that's really a lot of times for test taking, as it says, test taking strategies for synonyms and antonyms. Synonyms, words that mean the same or almost the same. Antonyms, words that mean the opposite. And honestly, the hardest thing that you're going to have about synonyms and antonyms, because we use them so often, is remembering how to spell the words. Yeah, kind of hard, aren't they? So where's that? Is there an I in there? All Y's? One I? I don't know. No, I do know. It's all Y's. Antonym. So no I. Synonym. No I either. I know. Let's look at that. See the words? So synonym, it has two short I sounds, syn and nym. Antonym has the same sound, nym, at the end. Those sound like short I's, don't they? Synonym, synonym, antonym, short I's they sound like. But those two words have only Y's in them, no I's. So the hardest thing that you're going to do when you learn about synonyms and antonyms is learning how to spell those two words. That's the truth. I'm still like, but now that I said it out loud that they have no I's, I don't think I'm going to forget. Although you still are like synonym. It's kind of a long word. Antonym. They're kind of long words, aren't they? Let's keep moving. Okay. So the idea here is what the point I wanted to make is this. A lot of readers learn to read because they use strategies. One strategy that people use to learn how to read is that I want to call somebody out that I know doesn't know how to read. It's clear this person does not know how to read. And it's a grown man who's on a television show and who basically has to read for a living. And it's clear to me that this man doesn't know how to read. And what the man does is memorizes, and this is an adult man, memorizes and has had a spot on a TV show for years where it is incumbent upon him to read. And it's very clear that he doesn't know how to read. And the thing about that is that when you're an adult and you don't know how to read and your job is dependent on learning how to read, it becomes reading, it becomes very embarrassing. Anything that you do in order to get better at reading, right? You feel so unbelievably embarrassed, especially if you're well known, right? Especially if you're famous. So you're famous and you go to a store and you buy a book that's for 2 or 3-year-olds. Who cares? How do people know you're not buying it for your niece or nephew? You begin to think it's all about you and everyone knows. Nobody knows. I know because I'm a psychologist. It's clear nobody else knows that you can't read. And you know who I'm talking about. It's very clear nobody knows you can't read. But it's also clear to me as a psychologist that you use these strategies. And here is my warning about these strategies. The warning is that some people use them as a crutch in order to get by understanding what the words are on the page without really being able to read. So it's good to use strategies like these, but these are test-taking strategies. They're good strategies to use to help you get right answers on a test. And getting right answers and feeling that you're right on a test helps alleviate the anxiety that you feel when you take a test. So these are very good test-taking strategies, but they're not necessarily the best reading strategies. Do you understand? That's a huge difference. So use these when you're taking a test, like the ones that they have here. Excellent, excellent strategies. And I love this handout here, which there at the bottom it says, right there is the name. I can't see it. upperelementarysnapshots.com. Thank you for this. I got it from teacherspayteachers.com is where I got this from. But everybody puts their own things up there. So that was from Snapshot, right? Let's look at it again. We've got it right here. Oh, shoot. I just went to it. Let's look at it, shall we? We should. Oh, I got it on the wrong one. Hold on. I actually do want to get it not on the wrong one, but on the right one. Hold on. There we go. I went and I clicked on it. All right, accidentally I clicked on it. So this is upper elementary snapshots. I don't know if I like this. I mean, I like my freebies, and teaching strategies, but upper elementary snapshots. That sounds like I don't know. I really have an issue with photos and young people and anything that alludes to the fact that you're taking photos of young people. I'm sorry. I really have an issue with that. So, cops who are sitting on their damn thumbs, figure it out. Look at that. Is there something wrong with this? Because it looks like there might be something wrong with it. And then, given that people are trying to, smear me, if I pull up a website that has something to do with taking shots of upper elementary students, what is that? Somebody look into that. I'm sorry. I don't happen to like it. Name your website something else. Yeah. And that wasn't a request. In case you didn't notice, that was a command. I don't know why I've got that up there. All right. So when we take a look at some of these things, the tenacious athlete. What these strategies are saying is, again, test-taking strategies, is use context clues. What is that? Well, what else is going on there? Let's say I use a big word that you don't know, like etymology. What else is she talking about? Now, that's a very big word, and it's a hard word, right? But you might know some word clues. Etymology. You might know some word clues, like etymology ends with O-L-O-G-Y, and so does biology, right? And so does psychology, and so does geology, right? So there's a lot of ology words. So that gives me a clue. What does ology mean? What does ology mean? And that is a really good sort of, I'm thinking of the word, I'm thinking of where I'm going with it as well. It's a sort of a springboard into, oh, well, that's not the word I was looking for, into what we need to know about root words. Use word clues. There are parts of words that have root words, and there are parts of words that have prefixes and that have suffixes. Let's take a look at that too, all right? Not sure if it's the next slide or not. I think that we already looked at homonyms and homographs, but we're going to look at those again. There's our etymology, is the scientific study of words' histories, of the word histories. Why do we want to know about word histories? Again, just like I explained with conscience, there's a lot of times it might really help us know when somebody's trying to delete your conscience by telling you that you shouldn't ever be shamed. Let me tell you something. That's dangerous. Do you think a criminal shouldn't ever feel ashamed? And maybe you're not a criminal, but do you think you should never feel ashamed? Do you never do anything wrong? And do you think that you should never feel ashamed, right? So we really do want to know about words and word histories. Does science have something to do with our conscience? Does our five senses have something to do with our conscience? And you know what? I bet it does. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. You are here in the classroom, and I'm so happy to be back with you. I just am happy to be back with you. I may only have what it looks like to be one person, but I know there's way more than one person out there watching me. And now Oakland University, after my rebuttal, is like, oh no, and you should be taking teachers out of their jobs, taking great teachers out of their jobs. It is just infuriating. Infuriating. 5 syllables. Dr. Annette Feravich, you're here in the classroom, the early bird classroom, with who? With your teacher. Thanks for joining me. Now I've got to see if I can come up with what I need.